In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create this old school master system game in HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So to start this project off, we're going to create a folder structure. The folder structure, we're going to have first of all an index.html file. That's where our main content's going to live. And then inside of this folder, we want to create an assets folder. And then inside there, we're going to create a JavaScript, also a CSS, and a images folder. So let's sort this out, put the CSS into there. There we go. So once we've done that, inside the CSS folder, we're going to create a styles.scss file. This is where our styles are going to be. We're going to then compile that to be styles.min.css in a bit in here. And then for the images, I've actually created 11 images, so I'm just going to drag those over. We can see that these are the assets that are part of the main section here. And then inside the JavaScript file, we're going to create a main.js file. That's where our main JavaScript is going to live. We're also going to create a level.js file. That's where our content is going to live for our actual level. So what I'll do is I'll import that now. And I'll talk you through what's happening. So lots of numbers here, 0 to 11. We can see here this is going from the top downwards. I believe it's starting here. It goes from zeros all the way across, which is just empty space. Then we have 10s and 11s, which are just left and right parts of the cloud. And then as we move down here, we can see 2 is the grassy top, 3 is the grassy top corner, and then 1s are the dirt, and so on. And this star box over here is a 9. So that's referencing the image numbers here when we import them later. So the next thing inside the index.html file, what we want to do is just create a boilerplate HTML. That's going to have a head and a body. Inside the head, we want to link to the CSS file that we're going to create. So that will be rel style sheet. That will have an href of assets, CSS, and then we'll have styles.min.css. And we close that tag off. So that's everything inside the head. Inside the body, we're going to have a div for the logo, so it's going to have an ID of logo, so we can reference that to hide it. And then we'll have an image src equals assets images, and then logo, which I'll copy across. So the logo is just the Alex Kid in Miracle World logo. That's that part done, and then what we want to do is create a div for the player, so ID equals player, and then a div for the map, which is going to sit underneath the player. So these are going to be dynamically inserted. The map is anyway, the player is just going to come directly from CSS. The map will be generated via JavaScript. So if we actually look at this file now, we'll see it's just the logo. There's no other content in here. So what we should do in the main.js file is start to actually build out the level. But before doing that, we want to import the JavaScript files into here. So to do that, we have a script with an src that's pointing at our levels file, and then we have a script with an src that's pointing at our main.js file. The levels, currently I have them local here. You may want this to be inside a database if you want to create multiple levels, for example. So that's level.js. Right, so let's start building out the actual level in here. So we've got that saved. Refresh that just to make sure it's not doing anything strange. So let's loop over this map. To do this, we're going to say for let I equals 0, I is less than height is less than map.length. Now you're probably wondering where that map reference is coming from. That's actually coming from the level.json. So let map equals, and then this here. And then we're going to say on the end of this I++. So now we can loop over each element. So that's going to loop over each row inside here. And then what we want to do is then loop over each column inside of here. But first of all, we need to actually create the rows. So we do this by saying const new row is equal to document dot create element. And that element's going to be a div. And then we want to give that row a class attribute of row, and then row with an I. That's the index that we've got from here. Then we want to get the reference of the map. So we do map div equals document get element by ID map, and that's going to reference this div that we've created here. And then we want to append this new row child to this map div. So if we save that and go into here and inspect the element, under elements here, if we refresh, we can see under map here, we've now got all these rows. 104 of them. So now that we've done that, we can start looping over each row. So we do that by going for let j equal 0, j is less than map I dot length j++. And now we're referencing each box inside here. And then the same as above, we're going to create a new column. That's going to be a div. And we're going to have the new column set attribute, and we're going to give that a column class with a column ID, and then we're going to call that block, and then the ID of the block. This is so we can reference what the user's actually touching. And then we want to append that block to the actual page. So if we save that and refresh underneath map, we should now have all of those underneath here. So for generating the map in the JavaScript, that's all we need to do. For the styles, I'm going to copy this in. We know that our boxes from left to right, we're going to have 16 boxes, so I'm going to create that as a variable. HTML body, we're going to have scroll behavior smooth, padding 0, margin 0 to get rid of the padding and margin that automatically comes inside of the body tag. Background color is going to be blue to match the old classic Alex Kid. Overflow X, Y are going to be hidden as well. So if we save that and give that a refresh after running the sass command. So the sass command we're going to run is sass, and then the location of the file that where our sass is, which is assets css styles.css. We want it to kick out styles.min.css, and we want that to be compressed, and we want to watch it so we don't have to run it every single time. It will wait for a change before generating it. Typo in here, that's why that's not working. We can refresh this and we've now got that blue background. Okay, so the logo, we want that to have a width of 100%, align center, margin top 50 pixels, position absolute, and the image is going to be 50 view wide. There we go. It's a bit blurry, it's the best I could get. And then we have a large block of CSS coming in here. I'll talk through what's happening here. So we have the map, which is going to be 100 view width and 100 view height. The row is going to be 100% width. The height is going to be 100 view width divided by the amount of boxes we have, which is 16. And that's going to be displayed by flex. Now the column is going to have a width of 100 view width divided by the boxes as well. And the height will be 100%. So you might be thinking why the height is going to be divided by this, by 100 view width. That's because we want them to be squares. And then for each block that I've got here, so 1 through to 11, I've set out a class for each of them that's referencing the image and also referencing the background size, which is going to be cover. If we do contain, we get some very strange lines appearing. So if I save that and refresh, okay, for this we actually get an error. That's because I've named this img when it should be images. So I'm just going to go through and update that. So I'll change these to be images /1 PNG. Let's refresh this and we can see it's loaded in our world. We get rid of the overflow Y here and refresh, we can actually scroll through this world. You can see we've got the entire first level here, apart from the swimming part at the bottom. If you want the swimming part added in, leave a comment below and I can look at adding that in as well. So the next thing to add would be the player. So this is actually the last bit of the CSS we're going to be adding. So the player, we're going to give them a height of 1.2 times the height of one of these boxes. So they're going to be slightly higher than a single box. So when they run into multiple boxes, they shouldn't be able to go underneath one if there's a gap underneath it. The width will also be times 0.8. This is because it's slightly, if we have a look at the character PNG, so we drag that into here, we can see that its width and height is taller than he is wide. Top is going to be 100 view height divided by 2, so he's going to be in the middle of the screen. So as we load in, he'll be in the middle of the screen here. So left, we want him to be 4 boxes along, so 1, 2, 3, 4, so he should sit down here. Background size cover, so he fills it all out. Position relative, overflow hidden, and transform scale -1. So when he appears, he turns right. Whereas as I think as we see in the image, he's turning left. So if we save that and give that a refresh, need to update this again, images, give that a refresh, and there we go, we have Alex Kidd in here. So I'm just going to turn off the overflow Y to get rid of these scroll bars here. Save, give that a refresh, those scroll bars will disappear, we can no longer scroll. So the next thing we want to do is watch out for key presses. Before doing that, I'm going to load in some positionings. So inside the main.js file, above the for loop, we're actually going to load in this square style left and square style top. So this is where the character currently is, this player currently is, and this will be emulating the background movement as well, because technically the player stays in this plane the whole time. And it's actually the background that's moving behind him. So I'm going to load in the controls now. I'm going to talk through what these controls are doing. So we have a document on key down, and this is going to watch for every key press that we do. It's going to get the location of the player. This event is the key press. It's going to get the location of the player and the map. And then we have this prevent default. So for example, if we had a scroll bar here and we press down, it would normally scroll down. This prevent default stops any of these keys that we press down from doing what they should normally do. So here I have if code is equal to arrow right or code is equal to key D. So we can use the 4 arrows or we can use WSAD. And then we have this function here is touching. So what I'll do is I'll load that in after this so you can see what that's doing. So what it does, it returns an array. So I'm checking if that array includes right, left, or bottom for each of these, and each of these does a separate thing. So what we're doing here is square style left. It's going to move the character left, so it's going to add 5 onto square style left. Probably not the best naming convention for this in hindsight. And then we have this player.style.left. So this player reference that we have here, .style.left is equal to this incremented number here, and then we're going to add pixels on the end. So what it's going to do is going to set the left style to this numerical number here with pixels on the end. And then what we're going to also do is player.style.transform, we're going to stick a scale equals 1. So we're going to flip the character. Then we have exactly the same here for arrow left and key A, apart from the fact that we're now minusing 5, so they can now move left. And also we're going to scale 1, so they flip around the other way. And then we've got this space here for the jumping. It's a very rudimental jump. It's not going to animate or anything. This just literally kicks the player up 50 pixels higher than the point they are at the moment. If you'd like me to have a second video of adding enemies in or adding in smooth jumping, bits like that, please leave a comment below. So yeah, this is the jumping. If we save this now and refresh, we can see, oh no, is touching is not defined yet. So let's add in is touching. So this function's a lot more complex. So we're getting the element one is going to be our player. So what I'll do is I'll rename all of these now to player element, and element 2, just for ease of use, I'll change to block elements. So as before, the player element is getting the player. The block elements are getting all of the blocks that the player should not be able to pass through. So if it's got an ID of 0, block 0, this counts as air, so they should be able to move through that, and as so on as with the clouds as well. They can't, he can just move straight through the clouds, but if he hits a solid block, he shouldn't be able to go through it. So what we're doing here is getting the bounding boxes of the player, and then we're going to loop through each of these elements that the block element has picked up, because that kicks back an array because we have a query select all. And what that's going to do then is also get the bounding boxes for that particular element. So it's going to loop through all of these. And this is fine for something this size. If, for example, we tried to load in 10 different levels, this would potentially be really slow. I was thinking of adding a bit of code in that as the blocks went past the top of the screen, they got removed, and as the screen started flowing through, it would lazy load the rest of the level in. But if you want to see something like that, also please leave a comment below. As for this, now we're saying if the player.left minus the box.right, so the player's left and the box's right, is less than 2. So if we minus those off of each other, and if the value is less than 2, and if the player's left and right is greater than 0, so we're saying if it's between 2 and 0, and then the player.bottom minus the player.top is greater than 1, and the player.top minus box.top is less than 20, because the player's very slightly higher than the box is. And then what it's going to do inside the touches, it's going to push in this left, which we're going to then look for it up here. This is this dot includes. And then we do the same for the right, but with the left switch out for the right. And then we return right on that one. This is just for debugging purposes. And then inside this one here, we have pretty much the same, but what we're doing is we're reversing it all. We're saying player.bottom minus player.top is less than -2, player.bottom minus player.top is greater than 0. And then the same here, box.right minus box.left is greater than 1, and box.left minus player.right is less than 1. And then that's going to push in bottom, and that's going to see if the player's actually landed on a block. So at the moment, if I save that and we run it, we won't actually move anywhere, but we can actually move left and right. But obviously we're not moving up and down at the moment because we need some form of gravity. So to do gravity, what I will do is check we're going to pop it in between these. This might not be the best way of doing it, but it's dirty and it's simple. So set interval check gravity. So we're going to check that every millisecond. And then we're also going to trigger that on launch as well. And the is check if gravity function looks like this. So we're going to get the map, same as we have done before. And then we're going to reference this is touching, and we're going to say if this user is not touching the bottom, then the square style.top, which is this one that we have up here, is going to be -1, and the map.styles.margin top is going to be equal to this square styles, and then we're going to add px on the end for pixels. And what that will do is that will rotate this background behind the player. Then we say if square top style is less than 0, then we want to get this logo, and we're going to add a display none. So this logo won't always appear on there. So now if I click save, so if we reload this, we can see that that logo disappears, and then we can start to actually move through the level. There's no enemies yet or any money that we can pick up. I was thinking of actually creating a secondary video to be able to do that. So we have our jump here as well. So if you'd like to see a second video showing you how to add the enemies in as well, please let me know. I'm just going to work my way through down to the bottom of the level here. And there we go, we hit the bottom of the level. So this has been a very quick introduction into creating these games inside of JavaScript. It's very quick and simple. If you'd like to see me take it further by adding UIs, adding enemy elements, or adding money elements into the game, let me know. Also, there's breaking of blocks. So, for example, in this game, he punches, he would actually punch a block. So, for example, if we were to jump over to here, he would be able to punch this block in order to get money out of that. If you want to see any of that, leave a comment below. I'm looking to do this once every 2 weeks. If there's a particular game that you'd like to see built, please leave a comment below. I can look at building that as well. If you found this video useful, please like and subscribe. Also, check out this video on screen now to learn more about JavaScript, and I'll see you in the next video.